The cafe smelled of roasted coffee and cinnamon, a small sanctuary tucked between the towering steel structures of New Geneva Station. Lena Mora sat at her usual corner table, fingers tracing the raised dots of her data pad as it whispered the morning news into her ear implant. She didn't need to see the cafe to know every inch of it. The creak of the third floorboard near the counter, the hiss of the espresso machine, the warm presence of strangers passing by. Today, though, something was different. A presence settled into the chair across from her, heavy and strange. The air shifted, carrying with it a scent like burning metal and distant stars. Lena tilted her head, her sightless eyes facing the newcomer. "This seat is taken," a voice rumbled, deep and layered with harmonics that didn't quite fit human vocal cords. Lena smiled. "Not at all. Please sit." There was a pause, as if the stranger hadn't expected kindness. The chair groaned under considerable weight. Lena heard the whisper of scales sliding against fabric, the soft click of claws retracting. "You're not from around here," Lena said, her tone light and curious rather than accusatory. "No," the voice admitted. "I am traveling." "Well, welcome to New Geneva. I'm Lena." Another pause. Then carefully, "Valdran." The name meant nothing to Lena, though across 1,000 conquered worlds, it was spoken in whispers of terror. The Crimson Scourge, the Dragon of Dead Stars, the warlord whose fleets had reduced entire civilizations to ash. But Lena only heard a lonely traveler's voice, tinged with something that sounded almost like exhaustion. "That's a beautiful name," she said. "What brings you to our little station?" Valdran studied the small human before him. She was fragile, as all humans were. Soft skin, no natural armor, eyes that gazed past him into nothing. He had expected fear, recognition, the usual trembling that accompanied his presence. Instead, she smiled at him like he was anyone else. "I am between destinations," he said finally, "seeking something. Aren't we all?" Lena laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "I come here every morning. The owner, Mrs. Chen, makes the best coffee in 3 sectors. Though I suppose that's just my opinion." "You cannot see," Valdran observed, noting how her eyes didn't track movement, how she oriented herself by sound and presence. "Born that way," Lena confirmed without a trace of self-pity. "But I see in other ways. I hear Mrs. Chen's smile in her voice when she's happy. I feel the warmth of sunlight through the viewport. I know when someone's sad because they sit differently, breathe differently." She paused, tilting her head. "You're sad, Valdran." The ancient warlord felt something crack in his chest, something he'd armored over with centuries of conquest and bloodshed. "I am weary," he admitted, shocked at his own honesty. "Then you've come to the right place," Lena said warmly. "Would you like to try Mrs. Chen's coffee, my treat? Consider it a welcome gift." Valdran watched as this blind girl flagged down the cafe owner, ordering something called a caramel macchiato for him with such genuine enthusiasm that he didn't have the heart to refuse. When the drink arrived, he lifted it with claws that had torn through starship hulls and tasted sweetness he'd forgotten existed. "It's good," he said quietly. "I knew you'd like it." Lena beamed. "So, Valdran, tell me about your travels. What worlds have you seen?" He could have told her the truth, of the 63 systems that had fallen to his armada, of the emperors who'd bent their knees before him, of the songs of lamentation that followed in his wake. Instead, he found himself describing the beauty of things he'd barely noticed while destroying them. The triple sunset on Kael'thos Prime, the crystal forests of Meridian Fer, the singing glaciers of Terminus. Lena listened with rapt attention, asking questions that no one had asked him in centuries. Not about strategy or conquest, but about the feeling of things. What did the wind sound like on those distant shores? Did the crystal forest chime like bells? Were the people kind? "Some were," Valdran said, and felt ancient shame coil in his gut. "I did not always notice." "It's never too late to start noticing," Lena said gently. "My grandmother used to say that the universe gives us infinite chances to see it clearly. We just have to be willing to look. And if one has done terrible things?" The question escaped before he could stop it. Lena was quiet for a moment, her expression thoughtful. "I believe," she said slowly, "that what matters isn't just what we've done, but what we choose to do next. Every moment is a chance to be different, to be better, even for someone who's traveled as far as you have." Valdran stared at this small, blind human who somehow saw him more clearly than anyone ever had. She didn't see the monster. She couldn't see his scarred scales, his battle-worn armor hidden beneath a perception field, the blood of thousands on his claws. She saw only a weary traveler in a cafe and offered him kindness. It was the most terrifying thing he'd ever encountered. "Why?" he asked hoarsely. "Why show me such kindness?" Lena smiled, reaching across the table. Her hand found his massive claw and she squeezed gently, fearlessly. "Because everyone deserves a friend, Valdran. Even lonely travelers far from home, especially them." In that moment, Valdran, the Crimson Scourge, the Dragon of Dead Stars, the Scourge of 1,000 Worlds, made a decision. His fleets would receive new orders. The conquest would end. Reparations would begin. It would take lifetimes to undo the damage he'd wrought. But this blind girl had shown him something his armies never could. That humans possessed a strength that had nothing to do with weapons or warfare. It was the strength of simple, unconditional kindness. "Thank you, Lena Mora," he said softly. "You have given me something I thought I'd lost forever." "What's that?" "Hope." As they sat together in that small cafe, a galactic warlord and a blind girl, the universe shifted ever so slightly toward light. And Lena, who saw the world through kindness rather than sight, had no idea she just changed the fate of 1,000 worlds with nothing more than a cup of coffee and a gentle heart. But perhaps that was the most human thing of all.